This Top 10 Fantasy Football Tight Ends edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is presented by WynnBET. Get started today and you'll get a risk-free bet up to $500. Terms and conditions apply. Get the details at wynnbet.com and download the app today. We're also brought to you by PropSwap, America's #1 app to buy and sell sports bets. Use promo code SGP on your first deposit and receive up to $500 in bonus cash. That's PropSwap.com, promo code SGP. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com with promo code SGPN and receive a free $25 entry to use in Best Ball Mania 2 for a chance to win $1 million. And of course, don't forget to download the SGPN app in the App Store or Google Play Store. Woo! Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking that money green with my partner in picks, Ryan. Real money Kramer. What's happening, Kramer Dog?
You know my favorite thing about fantasy football season is saying season.
S-Z-N,
Let's
baby.
go, baby.
Let's go. We're doing a little pre-tape, Ryan. You are, as the listeners are hearing this, you're floating down a river in a unnamed state.
I'm traveling. I'm traveling to Utah, Sean.
Oh.
To me, am I not allowed to say that? Utah didn't pay us. We can't mention Utah.
No, well, Utah's not paying us any money. So the only state we acknowledge is the one that brews Rocky Mountain Cold Refreshment, aka Coors Light.
Yeah, we floating down a river in Utah, and then maybe stopping on in little sunny Las Vegas on the way
throwing
back.
A little dice in Vegas. Oh, this is again, this is when football gets real. Are we going to be doing a whole series of our top 10 fantasy football players by position? And again, these are our rankings. We also have now up on the website, we have fantasy football rankings and fantasy football projections,
which I'm constantly updating.
Yes.
The rankings, by the way, it's great. Real time.
Again, I'm going to be tinkering all summer with these, and a shout out to fantasy football editor Adam Pelletier and all the writers for putting those together. It looks great on the site, sportsgamblingpodcast.com for that. All right, enough messing around. Let's do it. Oh, wait. Where the fuck is that?
Oh, no. Oh,
what happened, Ryan?
I don't know. Performance issues? There
we go.
They say it's a check engine light.
Hey, it's the preseason for us fantasy football experts, but it's never the preseason over at WynnBET, unless you want to bet on the NFL preseason, because then you can do that over at wynnbet.com, wynnbet.com. Download the app today. The NBA Finals, MLB. They got you covered over at WynnBET. Generous promos, odds, and parlays. They're all happening right now at WynnBET. WYNN-Bet. Oh, man. The Las Vegas experience right in the palm of your hands. If you want to win big, just go to wynnbet.com. Download the app today. Get that $500 risk-free bet. Terms and conditions apply. Get the details at wynnbet.com. Kramer, let's do it. Top 10 fantasy football tight ends.
We flipped the coin before we started recording it. Who goes first?
Well, I'll let you go, Ryan. I'll let you go first.
Because I have the nicer set of tight ends. All right, number 10. We're going backwards to forwards. I left some guys
Counting
out
it down
that I was gonna find a way to crowbar, like Anthony Ferkser. He's on the outside looking in. Yeah. Obviously, you want to check out the ranking, sportsgamblingpodcast.com.
Well, and the more I'm hearing about Ferkser, a lot of the stuff is the Titans coaches themselves don't think he's going to be taking over the Jonnu Smith role. So I know I was probably guilty of it earlier in the best ball season of like, oh, he's a plug and play guy. Throw him in there. But according to them, again, it's early. We're figuring things out. But I do take some of these coaches' notes seriously when it comes to playing time and their roles and stuff like that. Because I do think that you can figure a little stuff out.
And I think what we're seeing here is I'm gonna slowly see the divergence between my best ball opinion and my season long. Ferkser, a guy I think I like better in best ball
because he can have those.
He scores those touchdowns.
He could have those massive games,
but will be a mess. Anyway, other guys right on the outside looking in: Irv Smith Jr., Noah Fant. But my number 10 guy, I think The more that I read, the more I'm believing that he's going to see an increase in offensive share, even though they brought in Jalen Waddle, even though they brought in Will Fuller. Mike Gesicki, I firmly believe, Sean, and just because the quarterback isn't someone you fancy doesn't mean they're going to find the tight end a lot. And I think part of why I like Gesicki here is because Tua might be limited in where he can throw the ball. And I think Gesicki is going to be a guy that he's going to find familiar routes and comfortable throws to get him the ball. Honestly, I don't know if this is an offense that I'm banking on being like a volume offense. I want lots of players. I will say that in general, Miami Dolphins offensive players are very devalued right now.
Yeah, as they should be.
I'm a little higher than most on Mike Gesicki, but I definitely think in this kind of huge mess of guys that I listed some of them, probably at the next couple guys I'm going to list in a similar tier. I just like the upside here because I do think Tua is going to be looking to him early and often. And if he's receiving, a consistent 8-target game, he's going to look pretty decent at the 10 spot. So
Mike Gesicki, not in my top 10.
Where do you have him?
I don't know. I got to do another pass on, but I got him. I don't think he's a top 20 tight end, Ryan.
Okay. Well, you got to drop him a little bit then.
No, I mean, I have to update my rankings. Some of this is more recent, but the big appeal with Gesicki last year was that they didn't really have the receiver help and that he would be split out and running in that third receiver role, like basically playing a receiver in the tight end position in the slot. And
the slot. How's the slot?
He's not going to be doing that this year. They drafted Jalen Waddle, who I think is going to eat up a number of his targets. You take out the fact that even the quarterback situation alone, I just don't see it from Gesicki.
I think your opinion of Tua falls into why I think Gesicki's going to be more involved. Because Waddle's the vertical guy, Fuller's the vertical guy, and I don't think you're sold on his ability to throw vertically. So if those guys end up being more like decoys, and Gesicki could be a target hog. That's all I'm saying. And to put him at 10, maybe I'm putting him higher in the tier just to talk about him because I do think he's a guy that I don't have enough shares of yet. That I need to acquire more shares.
I like Mike Gesicki. I was all in on Mike Gesicki last year.
I get it.
I had him as my number one tight end. Again, I'm not afraid.
Here's what it was. This is
to throw out a hot take. No, he disappointed a little bit, but I mean what they did at the receiver position and where he's at, he's not in my top 10. Also, Noah Fant, not in my top 10. I'm sure this guy is in your top 10. T.J. Hockenson. Not in my top 10 as well. And again, I'm a big Hawk fan, but I just can't put in a position group that is reliant on touchdowns. I can't put in a team or a tight end with an offense that shitty. I just can't do it. In regards to Hawk, and I love Hawk. I hope Iowa guy, Big Ten football. I love Hawk as a quarterback. I just don't see it for him this year. Coming in at number 10 for me, he is a Jacksonville Jaguar. Give me Tim Tebow.
It's in line with the heat.
I did want to add Tim Tebow.
No, you didn't.
Into my fantasy rankings and put him at the end because you can hit add player in Fantasy Pros for your expert rankings. I actually went with, and again, lower than market on this guy, Mark Andrews. Still high on that guy. I thought he was a little bit overrated. He was super high last year. I think a lot of people had him top 3, top 2. I was down on him, and I think just a slight regression for me. I think they're going to try and get the receivers more involved. And again, Lamar, not an amazing passer, but Mark Andrews has been pretty consistent. I'll throw out some more. He was number 4 total fantasy points last year, 7 touchdowns. My model's showing a slight regression to maybe like 5 touchdowns, and that's why I got him in the 7 or 10 range here, just kind of cracking the top 10.
I'll counter argument later when he comes up in my rankings, Sean, because I think you're kind of right. He did have a down year last year. But he had a down year and still finished 4th, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it 2 ways. You could say he had a down year and still finished 4th, or he had a down year and it's a trend of Lamar and him not being able to use him to his full capacity and slowly, teetering out. So that's kind of the angle I went there. Who's your number 9 tight end, Ryan?
Number 9, I think he's fairly recently converted to the position, went to my alma mater, played quarterback, cannon for an arm. I've heard a lot of people say that Ryan Fitzpatrick coming to the situation hurts Logan Thomas's ability to put up points. I don't quite understand that argument with Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin on the outside. I think this is going to be a situation where Logan Thomas is going to eat. And I think Logan Thomas is going to eat around the red zone. I think Logan Thomas, he's 6'6". I think Logan Thomas is going to eat the seam, a throw that Fitzpatrick loves to make. And he's an athletic big guy who knows how to box out and use his body. Again, he's probably my number 8 guy is probably also in this same tier. But again, these guys are kind of the top of this tier where, I'd be fine getting guys towards the back end of it. Would prefer a guy like Logan Thomas. I just think the volume's going to be there. Maybe you have him higher, but
yeah, I do.
Okay, so yeah, to me the concern here is that it's not going to be all about these receivers, because I'm also pretty high on McLaurin and Samuel. So this offense I don't think is going to produce a ton of fantasy output on a week-to-week basis. But I do think Logan Thomas, again, in best ball, I definitely like him more too, because I could see him having some nice games where he gets 3-4 red zone targets and pulls in a couple touchdowns.
Well, and I'll save some of my Logan Thomas points for when I get to him at number 5. But I think one thing worth connecting to your Gesicki and your Logan Thomas, the through line there obviously being Ryan Fitzpatrick, and a lot of the Gesicki's good numbers came with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who had an ability to get him the ball. And Logan Thomas only in line tight end 19% of the time. So he's going to be lining up split out a lot like Gesicki, and I think that's going to be a great combination for Fitzpatrick. That's why I'm a little higher. I'm guessing you have this guy higher than I do, Ryan, because everyone does. Coming in at number 9, George Kittle. Again,
I love it. I'm low on George Kittle, but you're lower. So let's go.
First off, I want to thank George. I want to thank Travis for inviting me to the Tight End Summit, Ryan. Tight End University. They weren't able. I read a news story about how they weren't able to. Why they didn't invite Tim Tebow to the Tight End University, and they seriously gave an answer.
That's messed up.
I'm gonna look into the camera, Ryan, for this one. George Kittle is the most overrated fantasy football tight end in NFL history, because he doesn't deliver. I mean, I like George Kittle as a concept, as an idea, but look at his numbers, Ryan. Off the top of your head, how many career touchdowns does George Kittle have? He's been in the league 4 years.
Let's see, 10?
14 touchdowns in 4 years. He's never had more than 5 touchdowns. Why is he a top 3 tight end every goddamn time? It makes no sense. But 14 touchdowns. Robert Tonyan almost did that last season alone. It's a touchdown-dependent league, and he's coming off of injury. You have a very weird quarterback situation, I think, to say the least, and 7.9% drop percentage. He led the league in drops last year, and some of that's the quarterback play. But is FCS rookie, Trey Lance or Jimmy G, ankle fucked up, going to be that much better?
Yeah, it's
he is capable of massive games. And again, the guy obviously has a great athletic skill set. But again, he's coming off a serious injury again. Between the injuries, the tight end uncertainty, his drop issues, low touchdown percentage. I think he's lucky to make my top 10. And I said that to him at the summit.
Coming in with the hot touchdown. You're all in on the touchdown angle. I think here's why I had a hard time dropping Kittle much further than where I dropped him, which was to 5. And I was trying to find a reason to push him lower, but I feel like it's silly because he can have games where he's such a huge part of the offense, and I've actually
best ball, yeah.
Well, for sure, but if you're drafting Kittle, you're drafting him early, and I think even where I put him at 5, and if you look at my overall rankings, he's far enough down where I'm not going to be taking him towards the back end of the second round, early third round, so I'm probably not getting him anyway. But I do think he still possesses the capability to be featured in that offense as the number 1 receiver.
No, and again, that's why
that to me is why it's hard to push him much further down. Now, I think we effectively do the same thing. We effectively have done the same thing, which is we've put him off our board to where we're not taking.
Yeah.
So, but I like how you're going hot with it. You have a bone to pick.
He's never had more than 5 touchdowns.
Can I tell you why people love him? There's this weird thing leaking in from like football guy speak where it's like George Kittle's just
he's a good blocker.
He's a man, he's an old school, he's a throwback tight end, and look, he's gonna have games, and I just don't think I'm gonna end up with a ton of them this year.
So he's never had more than 5 touchdowns in a season. Worth noting, obviously. The highest ranked fantasy tight end last year who had 5 touchdowns, Eric Ebron, came in at 13, 91 targets, 56 catches, 5 touchdowns. I mean, I think he's going to do better than that, but is he going to get you 8 touchdowns and 41 catches like Jonnu Smith did in the 9 spot? I don't know, man. I don't know. So that's why I got him number 9. Who's your number 8 guy?
My number 8 guy, again, he's probably in there with Logan Thomas and Gesicki for me. And maybe he has a higher ceiling because of what the offense could be. And, again, just like what I said about George Kittle, Dallas Goedert could very well be the number 1 target in this offense. And, I think it's interesting because I know that the Eagles are going to produce a lot of receptions, a lot of passing fantasy points this year. And so I want to have positions on him, and I can't find myself getting there with taking Devonta Smith as early as Devonta Smith is going. And so it ends up being Dallas Goedert. Funny enough, I have Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts ranked almost I think back to back in the 80s range, which puts them right in that range of where they're going, where you can go back to back and stack, whether you're playing season long or best ball, with what I think is I would say Dallas Goedert in my 8 spot. He might have a higher ceiling than some of the guys I'm going to list next. I just don't know. This offense could look completely different, and Dallas Goedert might not be a huge part of it at all. But I love him at the 8 spot because I think the ceiling is high enough to be appealing. And I think when you're drafting a tight end in this range, you are drafting a ceiling, not so much a floor. Because especially in season long, Sean, if he turns out to be a guy who's not involved inconsistently, you cut him, you pick someone else up. Because I mean, the tight end position is conservatively 18 deep. Yeah. If you're not taking a top guy, so I'm sure you have Dallas Goedert higher. But again, I think the promise for him is that the ceiling could be enormous. I think with that receiving talent, if he is a featured guy, there's no reason he's not receiving 7-8 targets a week. Yeah,
no, I mean, I have him higher. I'll save some of the points. I mean, I think the injury issues have been an issue. He's never been the guy.
Ertz is still on the roster.
Yeah, but we expect that to be resolved. I think especially the contract situation, I think is worth noting too, because they're not giving him a big deal. They're not extending him before this year. This is a Dallas Goedert. Here are the keys to the tight end 1 car. Don't wrap it around the pole. Let's see what you can do with it. And again, the Sirianni offense does involve the tight end a decent amount. He doesn't have a ton of competition. I mean, Richard Rodgers is the backup tight end who at times looked better than Ertz, honestly.
Yeah. He made plays.
But yeah, I got some more. I got some more Goedert stuff. Number 8, Hunter Henry.
Whoa,
I know.
Really?
Yeah, I'm taking a stand here. I think what is happening right now in the fantasy community, and hello. This is me speaking to the echo chamber that is the fantasy Twitter world, where everyone just copies their own rankings and like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, oh yeah, target share, because everyone has the same spreadsheet and. We obviously have some good guys with spreadsheets, but this is a gut football handicapper 101. They brought in 2 tight ends. Jonnu Smith, I don't think is Bill Belichick's type of tight end. He loves him a Gronk, and Hunter Henry has strong Gronk vibes.
Jonnu Smith's more the Aaron Hernandez role.
Yeah, exactly. He's gonna end up shooting up a club,
I mean,
allegedly. I think there's a pretty easy scenario where Hunter Henry leads this team in targets, catches, and receiving touchdowns. Now I know they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel, but I think Hunter Henry is going to show himself to be a much better pass-catching tight end than Jonnu Smith. I mean, you look at the early beat reporter stuff, and I do think it's worth honestly, if you're hardcore fantasy and gambling, and you must be if you're listening to a top 10 fantasy football tight end podcast, do yourself a favor and subscribe to, or at least peruse, some of these like local Reddits for the different team stuff, because certain stuff will pop as far as the beat reporters, etc. Pat's tight end Hunter Henry's skills are obvious at workouts. So I think there's already some clamoring going on. And I think he's a guy that's going to really be able to separate himself. I know they paid Jonnu Smith a decent amount of money. I know they're going to be running this run-heavy offense. It's going to be different.
Cam Newton might be the quarterback.
It's funny. Everyone just took their same takes on New England, put them right back in the microwave, hit 5 seconds, reheated, and pulled them out. It's like the same shit we heard last year. Cam Newton is not going to be the quarterback past week 5 or 6. And I think Hunter Henry is going to really succeed once they put in Mac Jones, who will be their starting quarterback. Ryan, before we hear more from the fantasy football tight end preview, shout out Prop Swap, baby. Brought to you by Prop Swap. Oh, man. America's #1 app to buy and sell sports bets. You see a ticket you like but think the price is too high. I'm sure they're going to have some player props out there because those are fun to get in Vegas. Get those tickets. Head over to the Win. Get yourself a nice over Hunter Henry receiving yards prop. Then when he's skyrocketing, has a couple 100 yards games early, you can list it for sale on PropSwap. Again, the awesome part about PropSwap is you don't need your ticket to win to make money. All you need to do is have your ticket increase in value. #investing.
#Legends only.
Again, PropSwap, your bet doesn't need to win. All you need to do is just make some of that sweet, sweet cheddar, a.k.a. value. Just go to PropSwap.com, use promo code SGP on your first deposit and receive up to $500 in bonus cash. That's right. I mean, again, you're already going to get the best price and you're going to get $500 bonus cash. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God!
PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. PropSwap.com, promo code SGP. Kramer, what are you doing number 7?
Number 7 is I just disclosure. Once Julio got traded, it would be foolish for me to not put Kyle Pitts in my top 10.
Okay.
And I like the running back situation, but again, I like Calvin Ridley, as you'll hear later in this series. But again, by putting Kyle Pitts where I've put him, I'm not drafting him. He's going too early for my taste. But I respect the volume he's going to see. I respect the situation, not too different than Goedert. If he could have games where he's featured in a situation where they're down a lot of points, and Goedert and Pitts play each other week 1. I mean, we could see very quickly what these guys are capable of in a plus matchup like that. So
yeah, I mean,
it's kind of a cop out because I was never going to leave him out of the top 10. I do think now with Julio out, like there's an obvious role. We saw what Arthur Smith was able to do with the Titans and kind of just maximize the potential of players. He looks like a coach that knows what the fuck he's doing. So when they took Pitts, they obviously were taking him for a purpose. And so just from a volume perspective, I think now we're entering the world where like these guys are all the guys who I think are probably going to average in the 6+, 7+ target range. And I think that with that and with this guy's size, and he's certainly going to be a target around the red zone. I'd be curious to hear your take on him because it feels with the heat you're coming with. I'm guessing he's not in your top 10.
Oh no, he is.
Okay.
I just have him. I have him one spot ahead. I'll just do my Kyle Pitts now. I have him number 6. Yeah, I think you nailed it. We're actually not as high as the market. I mean, a lot of people have Kyle Pitts number 3. I think that's just too tough of a
He's a
bar
rookie
to
tight
put on
end
a
to start,
rookie.
like, period.
Yeah, and I think him being number 6 tight end in fantasy football would be really good production out of him. And again, I'm pretty skeptical of Matt Ryan as a quarterback without Julio. And I'm with you to a certain degree, Calvin Ridley. I think you're going to be higher on Calvin Ridley than I am.
Yeah, well.
I mean, I don't know if it'll be possible for me to be higher on Calvin Ridley than you, but I just think this Atlanta offense could hit some speed bumps. And I like the case of them not addressing their defense and still being a good opportunity for the offense. But to me, 6 sounds right for Kyle Pitts. 7 sounds right for Kyle Pitts. When you have him that high, it's just there's just no value in it either in drafting it.
No, and I think the value becomes like you have the tight end cheat code. You have the guy that's getting 10 targets a week who's playing tight end. And I think what I keep coming back to, whatever I think or feel about Matt Ryan, I just come back to this Arthur Smith situation. And we saw what he did with Ryan Tannehill. Like, perhaps Ryan Tannehill leaving Gase step up and all, but like that offense, we saw what they did some games, and
that's a good case for them.
Anyway, who's your number 7 guy?
Well, my number 7 guy, Cole Kemet, and again,
Nice.
he's probably not in a ton of people's top 10s.
Nice.
This is Sean, football guy again. Got a good look at him at the tight end summit. Here's the thing: you look at
Football guy, Sean.
Jimmy Graham was actually the number 10 fantasy tight end last year, and a lot of it was dependent on the touchdowns, right? He had 8 touchdowns, and that's how he cracked the tight end or the top 10, 50 receptions. I mean, who knows what you get out of Jimmy Graham? Clearly, it was kind of like the end of the road for him.
Yeah, he's not playing this year, right?
I mean, I'll be surprised if they get much out of Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham even said, quote, "Sky is the limit for Cole Kemet." That isn't a guy who's worried about stealing the job. This is a guy who's out in the pasture. They already put him out in the pasture. He's fine passing the torch to Cole Kemet. And Cole Kemet was a guy who finished strong. Over the last 7 games of the season, his usage increased. He was targeted over 5 times per game every one of those last games. And I think there was a lot of stuff that worked in that Trubisky offense when he came back the second time that they're going to institute once they put Justin Fields in there. And again, Cole Kemet getting that local heat. They asked him. They asked the coach who was the Bear who stood out the most in OTAs. His coach said Cole Kemet. The ball always seemed to find him regardless of who was at quarterback, aka Justin Fields. Cole Kemet, book it. Fields had 6 passing touchdowns, 2 tight ends in college. Take what you will from that, but to me, the Cole Kemet, Justin Fields best ball stack is juicy. And again, people are kind of on to Justin Fields because of the rushing upside, but I still think the fact that you compare him with Cole Kemet, who I think, and no offense to Allen Robinson, there's a world where probably not the number 1 target, but certainly a solid number 2 to Allen Robinson.
And you know one of the things you have to check the box on to kind of pop into this range. I think touchdowns are great. Like, touchdowns are important, but I think you can also just look at a target share and say this is what you're going to need. And you look at the top guys, it's hard to find a guy who's going to really score you on a consistent basis that isn't averaging north of 6 targets a game. And so with Cole Kemet, what you just called out, he averaged 30 targets over the last 5 weeks of the season, which is exactly 6 targets a game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have him. I didn't have the onions to put him in there, but you know we love that stack with Justin Fields. I definitely have. For a guy who's not in my top 10, I have a tremendous amount of Cole Kemet shares in best ball this year. All right, Sean.
What do you got? Number 6.
My number 6 guy. This is where the Stafford love kind of really affects my rankings. Gerald Everett leaving town. Tyler Higbee still there, and I think we saw what he could do when he had the stage, even with a guy like Jared Goff. I mean, we saw it in 2019, not so much last year, but I do think we saw some upside, right? Like, we saw some of those games where he had double-digit catches even for 100 yards. So I think you bring in a competent quarterback. You still have Sean McVay. You still have an offense that's going to be able to run the ball, going to be able to use the play action. And nothing really has changed with the receivers other than I think that Stafford is going to push the ball down the field a bit more, which should open Tyler Higbee up even more. I would say like Tyler Higbee is the last guy that I would really want to end up with, who I would feel like super confident in. Like if I had to end up with Pitts on my team, I would still feel like he's a rookie tight end. So I think Tyler Higbee's in for a decent to stellar year. I'm going to be drafting him. Putting him here puts him in a position where I'm going to be drafting him more than not. Higher than market, Sean. Higher than market.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good case for Higbee. He didn't make my top 10. I mean, I didn't have any strong bullets against him. For me, it was just kind of a numbers thing. I mean, I got to look at my official rankings. I think I got him at 12 right now.
To me, you want to.
I think maybe one thing, and take with it what you will, is that it seems like they brought in Matt Stafford specifically for the deep ball, for the deep shot. I mean, they brought in Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell. I think they're going to want to go deeper. And I think maybe that is where Higbee was getting some short garbage that Goff was throwing, but that they're going to really push the ball down with the receivers on the outside with speed, and that maybe leaves Higbee a little left to dry there.
I think I agree with everything you said. I just think it gives them more field to operate with. And
that's the good counter.
If what they're saying is true, I mean, if you add up the targets that Everett and Higbee got last year, 120 targets, which puts you way north into the almost 7 target per game.
Yeah, I mean,
now are they going to roll out another receiver? I don't think they're going to run as much two tight end stuff. So I do think this is going to be Higbee ceiling to grab. And you know what? As we speak, I almost kind of want to – can we update our rankings on the fly? I'm going to bump Tyler Higbee to number 5 ahead of George Kittle, putting George Kittle down to 6. So I'll let you go, then I'll talk about George Kittle, who you already shit on appropriately.
I'm going my next man up, LT3, Logan Thomas. I mean, you made a good case for him. I mean, as an Eagles fan, I'm going to be worried about how we guard this guy. I think he should be the number 2 target behind McLaurin. I know there's a lot of Samuel heat and Gibson out of the backfield. Fitzmagic isn't really as much a throw to the
he's an inaccurate guy. He likes throwing to bigger targets.
Yeah, and LT3 is big. I think him and Fitzmagic are going to have a great connection. Again, same reason why I like Gesicki last year. I mean, LT3 coming off 72 catches, 6 touchdowns, and that was with a really bad quarterback situation. You couldn't get any worse. I think Fitzmagic is going to bump that up. I think Logan Thomas in the red zone is going to get him his looks. So for me, the case for Logan Thomas is pretty easy, and number 5 for the tight end spot makes a lot of sense. What do you got up next, Ryan?
Well, I mean, I swapped them, so it's Kittle, and just to kind of compound, here's one of the things I like to look at when I'm doing these rankings. I like to look at the target charts, both how many targets for a team, or maybe if it's coach moving, what did he do last year? How many targets are going to go to that position, and then how did that player fare in the previous year? And when you look at George Kittle. Again, maybe I should have been like you and just dropped him lower, but he just doesn't perform. Like, he's going to have big games, but I think you're crazy to take him in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And so, again, having him this low certainly puts him off our teams for the most part. So not much else to add. The only other thing I'll say, which I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. There is a version, if it is Trey Young, that they're running some gimmicky shit.
Trey Lance.
Sorry, Trey Young.
Trey Young.
Watching the if they're running Trey Lance, I could see a lot of shovel pass to Kittle type stuff.
Yeah.
And if he's getting cheap stuff like that, obviously he becomes.
No, I mean the scary thing as guys who are down on Kittle is what if he is their number 1 receiver? But there's a world to that, right?
I'd rather take the bet on it being a Brandon Ayuk or a Tebow Samuel and using the 7th, 6th round, whatever 8th round draft equity to get it versus 3rd round George Kittle feels steep.
Again, and maybe I just have this bias against the 49ers because I think Kittle and Shanahan.
You hate Kittle. You do hate Kittle.
I do hate Kittle. Well, no, I mean, I want to like George Kittle. The Ertz
what
thing.
It happened. Oh, that's what it was.
It was the All-Pro snub by Zach Ertz. Should have got the All-Pro. They gave it to Kittle. And I'm trying to take my bias away, but you look at the numbers. It's like, when has anyone ever won their league because of George Kittle?
Revenge
I
is
don't see
a
it.
dish best served cold, Sean. Yeah,
I mean, they're putting the echo chamber kids are putting him up there with like Kelce or Waller.
No.
Like he's a guy. He's in that tier. He has the ability. He has the offense. He just doesn't do it. So why would I think this is the year? And he's coming off a fucked up injury.
If you look at the games where he was healthy, he did average almost 8 targets a game. But if you really look at it, he had a 15-target game. He had a 10-target. It's like there is some skewing. He also had a 4-target game. So my take on Kittle would be for him to achieve what people are saying he's going to achieve, for him to achieve a positive EV in your draft, he's going to have to be the number one target. He's going to have to average these 8 targets a game, and I don't think that's sustainable, period.
No, it just doesn't.
All right, so I've given 10 through 5 now.
Okay.
So I think you're on number 5.
No, Logan Thomas was my 5.
Okay.
I squeezed in my 6
That's
Kyle
right.
Pitts there.
4?
Yeah. I'm on number 4, Dallas Goedert. Again, we kind of hit on Goedert earlier. I think, again, him leading the team in targets, I think is pretty reasonable. It's weird. There's a lot of chatter about the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and obviously we're going to break that down in graphic detail for the quarterbacks.
Oh, he made your top 10.
You have to know when to come.
Oh, man, it's just amazing. And people are saying, well, the Eagles might be bottom 5, pass attempts. I just don't see that at all. I think they're going to be throwing a lot because I am worried about the defensive backfield.
People have that take for real.
No, that bottom 5, bottom 10 because they think Jalen Hurts is going to be running a ton.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, and those QB runs, they keep drives alive and they keep them on the field. And the more you're on the field, the more you're going to pass. Like if you watch that Colts offense, and it'll be interesting to see because obviously Phillip Rivers and Jalen Hurts, very different quarterbacks, but they got the most out of those tight ends. Whether it was Moa Ali Cox, Jack Doyle, and I think they split it up less because they wanted to do 12 personnel and more just because that was the personnel they had. Like Mo Ali Cox and Jack Doyle, neither one of them was clearly better than the other. For the Eagles situation, Dallas Goedert is way better than Richard Rodgers. Now, I do think the running backs are going to get involved in the screen game, so that's going to suck up some attempts. I do think Rager will have more targets than he did have previously. And Devonta Smith is this wild card. He's coming in as the number 1 receiver for the Eagles. How much are they going to use him? How much do they want to use him? He is a smaller frame guy. Goedert, and again, Goedert's had his injury issues. All that being said, I think they're going to be throwing a decent amount, and I think Dallas Goedert's going to get a shit ton of looks.
Yeah, I think the one angle is what you pointed out, that basically the Eagles were one of the top teams in target share to tight ends last year. And so that number right there, that 30% number, is going to probably regress. If you look at the Colts last year, they used the tight end a lot, still only down at the 22% range. So maybe that would be a counter argument. Again, I tend to not – I don't see too many versions of the Eagles that end up with a team that doesn't have – the bottom 10 in pass attempts is crazy to me. That's just an incorrect take.
Yeah, I don't know – I just don't see that they're going to be like a team that pounds the rock. I mean, if you follow the Eagles like I do, there was this story of after they had that nice win on a Thursday night in Green Bay, one of the things that came out that Jeffrey Lurie was kind of busting Doug Peterson's balls for not throwing the ball more. And he's like, oh, we pounded the rock, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They brought in – the point I'm getting at is Nick Sirianni would not have gotten the job in Philadelphia if his plan was we're going to pound the rock.
Well, also,
that's just not going to fly in Philly. And between Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, they love throwing the ball.
And just even if you're paying attention to the national shit, like Lurie wanting Jalen Hurts to be focused on, like that tells me again what maybe they're not gonna, like you said, they're not just gonna pound the rock. Last thing I'll say is that the combination of Ertz and Goedert, tremendous amount of, again, targets to the tight end. So even if the regression does happen, but there's only one of them, he could still he's still in.
I mean,
he's
in a sweet spot where he is healthy. The Eagles' offensive line is healthy, should be way better than last year, and there's a chance to pick up a huge chunk in targets. Like, what are these top 10 tight ends? Who is in a situation where they're gonna pick up a bunch of targets?
I mean, again,
I guess Ferkser, if you're putting him in your top 10.
Higbee would be the guy.
Higbee's the other guy,
that I point
Higbee's
to.
actually a good comparison because it's basically where they were split between two guys. Now it's just one guy.
And there's a.
But I would say the difference is why I have Goedert higher than Higbee is there's a chance Goedert's number one in targets. I don't see a realistic path that's for Higbee.
That's fair, but
No, I mean,
perhaps you're right. You know why I have Goedert lower than Higbee is just simply the floor. Like, to me, the floor on Goedert is lower.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
I'm really.
I mean, the floor for Goedert is pretty low because obviously Hurts could be a disaster, or Goedert could get injured again, or
or he's just
we don't know the Sirianni offense like we think we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taping these preseason games.
Pre-training camp, Sean. All right, number 4 for me.
Ryan, before we get to number 4, just want to shout out Underdog Fantasy. Love the Underdog platform. Love doing their best ball drafts. I mean, we've done a bunch of episodes where all we do is draft.
Love it.
Is draft a best ball mania lineup. They got other stuff as well. They got the MLB NBA Finals games as well. They even have the 3-team leagues for best ball, which is kind of insane. But
it's fun.
Yeah,
just leave it at that.
It is fun. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN for your chance to win $1 million. That's right. I mean, yeah, what more do we have to say? Stop wasting your time with mock drafts. I mean, mock drafts, you're going to draft something with nothing on the line, throw in $25, or better yet, free. Just sign up at Underdog, roll the dice with best ball draft. Again, you can be in 250 leagues, right? You just don't have to manage them.
I'm getting there.
UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. Who's your number 4, Kramer?
It's Mark Andrews, and I think there is this very interesting narrative about Mark Andrews where he had a good year last year, but he didn't have a good year last year. And you pointed out the weapons they brought in, whether it be the rookie Bateman or Sammy Watkins or whatever, as a reason why maybe he'll get less work. I don't think this offense is going to take any targets away from the tight end position. 27.8% last year, one of the top shares in the league. So I don't have that concern. He missed 2 games, still ended up as the 4th or 5th tight end, depending on your scoring system. So I think having some receivers that can actually be receivers, Hollywood Brown, yeah, sure, he can stretch the field. But again, I like the teams that are adding these components that can add space for the tight end to operate. I still think Mark Andrews is going to be one of Lamar Jackson's, if not favorite, top 1B target. I think I have him here because he's going to be the 1A target. I think he's going to be definitely the number 1 target around the red zone. And again, the offense that they run, if Andrews has the year that most people expect him to, or expected him to have last year and probably expect him to have this year, I think he easily is right there in the top. And I think he's one of the guys that can flirt with the top tier of guys who just have so many targets coming their way. It's hard to compete with them. But I do think if Andrews gets enough positive touchdown regression this year, he can pop back up there. Putting him here 4 means I'm going to be taking him. And, I looked at my best ball teams, and one of the things I noticed is I don't have enough Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack. And I know it's a little bit more expensive, but I think I want some of it because and the Lamar
Jackson, you're getting at a good price. You're getting at a discount because again,
He's going low. He's going fourth, I think, out of the.
And everyone had Lamar Jackson as their number one. They were drafting him in like the second round, and everyone got burned. So now they're like, well, fuck this guy. I'm not drafting him again. And we've taken our shots at Lamar, but certainly from a fantasy perspective in the regular season, yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys getting a Seattle Russell Wilson stat going and getting some more shares of a Lamar Jackson stat going. And you're right. You make a good case as to Mark Andrews being the 1A. Maybe I don't know. I'm a little worried about their passing game overall, and that's why I had him lower. But, yeah, I mean, certainly he was the number 4 fantasy football tight end. For him to run it back and get number 4 again, there's a pretty easy path to that.
Well, and because it seems like he just had a poor year. He was inefficient. And I think, if he has one of those big-time touchdown years, because this offense is clicking, again, they've changed nothing. All they've done is brought in more talent. And so it's very – I feel silly for not having more shares of the Baltimore offense.
Brian, my number 3 tight end, and I'm guessing he didn't make your top 10 because I don't think you would have him this high. Bobby Tonyan. Why not Robert Tonyan? I just don't get the case against Robert Tonyan. Is it the touchdown regression?
Yeah.
Because we've had this conversation about touchdown regression before. We had it with Aaron Jones and just the Packers in general. The Packers seem anti-regression, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. He's going to have a good year, and he's going to throw some touchdowns to one of his few friends on the team, Bobby Tonyan. There's a pretty easy formula where he is number 2 in targets. He had 59 targets last year. He was only a couple behind Aaron Jones. I think he could easily exceed Aaron Jones. The 11 touchdowns, to me, I know he was chasing the MVP a little bit with some of those, but overall, he seemed like he really liked throwing to Robert Tonyan in the red zone and just in general. Like, they seem to have a legit connection on the field. I'm kind of kicking myself for not having him more in best balls, but just looking at him, I mean, 52 catches on 59 targets, insanely high catch rate. Again, he's not in that elite tier of Kelce and Waller, and that is the only tier for me. But right behind it, I think he is. And I'm not going to be surprised if he gets you 9-10 touchdowns again. 9-10 touchdowns and maybe more catches, like he gets 65 catches. You're going to be number 3 fantasy football tight end again. I think he's the guy that runs it back. Give me Bobby Tonyan. I'm guessing he's not in your top 10 at all.
No, it's tough. I mean, it felt like he had a pretty good year for his targets to still only be 59 across the entire season. He was carried there solely on touchdowns, and I think what scares me is that makes the floor really, really low. I mean, there's a lot of versions of this where Tonyan, Aaron Rodgers isn't the quarterback.
But you don't think Jordan Love would want to throw to Bobby Tonyan?
Maybe.
I mean, I guess he wouldn't get those
targets
touchdowns
that way. Look, I like your stepping out here. It's just I have him outside the top 10 because I it's just too much uncertainty right now, and I'm certainly not going to put him up in this realm. I'm certainly not going to put him up.
No risk it, no biscuit.
No risk.
Right?
I like it. My number 3 guy, TJ Hockenson. I mean, this is just. It's simply a volume play, and Detroit Lions, they had 558 targets last year, which is pretty high. 22.9 went to the tight end. That's only going to go up. I don't know who we're going to catch. I don't know, Rashard Perryman. We're just going to roll guys out there. TJ Hawkinson's going to average. He might lead the league in average targets. The reason he's not in the your elite super sexy these tight ends fuck Kelce Waller tier is because the offense probably is going to suck, and I think there's running backs that are going to steal points around.
Well, yeah, and you nailed it. I don't think you want to talk about teams that are going to be in bottom 5 pass attempts. I think it's going to be the Detroit Lions.
No, I think they're going to be throwing so much because they're going to be down.
No, I don't. You need to establish the run even when you're down 14
You're right.
points.
That's what's
you think Dan Campbell's going to get away from the game plan? You think Anthony Lynn's going to adjust? I just
if they weren't going to be so bad, I'm with you. Like maybe it keeps him out of being a top 5 pass attempts team, but I think there are going to be enough targets for TJ Hockenson to not. He can hopefully he scores some touchdowns, but if he is sitting there at the end of the year with averaging 9 targets a game, I won't be surprised. And if he's averaging 9 targets a game, it's gonna be real fucking hard for him to not be a top 3 tight end. So,
well, and I think comparison. We want to talk about pass attempts per game. I'm looking at the bottom 5 last year. Any guesses as to who the bottom 5 would be last year? Because there's a couple in here that would be surprising.
I mean, I'm kind of also looking at a list, but I'm sure the Giants and Jets are in that list.
Baltimore is actually the least amount, 25.9. New England, 27.5. Tennessee,
wow.
30.1. Jets, 31.2. So you want to talk about a bad team that still doesn't get up their pass attempts. I think the Jets are comparable offense, comparable Adam Gase, comparable shittiness, comparable quarterback play.
I would take that bet.
That's why I'm out on Hawk.
I'll take the bet that Detroit isn't a bottom 5 or whatever you said pass attempts team.
Well, I mean, they're in a dome, and of course we hate domes.
I just think it's going to be a lot of check down Charlie. Now in the FFPC and tight end premium leagues, Hockenson becomes even more interesting. Well,
he's a little sneakier there, but I think again you look at I just don't think he's going to get there touchdowns wise. That's why I didn't have him in my top 10. I don't think he's getting. I mean, everyone in the top 10 last year had 6 touchdowns or more. I don't think he catches 6 touchdowns. I think Jared Goff's the guy that throws.
I just think he could clear the majority of tight ends by 2 targets a game, and I think that's going to matter. Like at the end of the day, that will.
That's a crazy stat.
Not. I mean, like the field, like after Kelce and Waller. Again, Kelce last year, for reference, Kelce averaged 9.7 targets a game. Waller 9.1. All right. The next George Kittle in his injury-riddled season 7.9, and then Logan Thomas 6.9. All I'm saying is that if Hockenson averages 9, he's going to be too clear of most tight ends. So that extra opportunity should. Now, I agree. The offense should suck, so I'm worried. Who's your number 2 guy?
Yes.
We had the same number 1 and number 2 guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, Darren Waller, number 2, Travis Kelce, number 1. I mean, you can get cute, and I got cute last year as far as making Gesicki number 1. But, yeah, I mean, the Raiders, 146 targets for Darren Waller last year. The guy's a beast. They didn't play in a dome, or they did play in a dome last year. Still in a dome. Check. Number 2 in targets last year, Nelson Aguilar, 82 targets. That's out the window. Who's it going to go to? Probably Waller's going to get some of that. I mean, Henry Ruggs should have more, but he only had 43 targets. Hunter Renfrow, 77. Like, who are you worried about them not throwing the ball to? I still think they have a ton of issues on defense. Darren Waller, he's just playing at a high level. Like, what's not to like about Darren Waller?
33% of the target share to the tight end. They actually led the NFL. So
yeah, and it could go up, I feel.
In a strange way, I like Waller at the back end of the second round, early third round, more than I like Kelce in the first round. And again, like you walk through whatever version of the team.
What sucks about Darren Waller is you have to draft Derek Carr with the stack, which is just not fun. Even though Derek Carr's numbers, by all accounts, are good fantasy numbers.
Don't make it your stack.
Yards per attempt.
Don't make it your stack.
Yeah.
It's a real cheap stack. You're getting the quarterback for free, but just don't make it your stack. I mean, that shouldn't – the more that as we were kind of diving in and finalizing rankings and stuff, one of the things I did kind of come back to, which, I punt on tight end a lot, but I've circled back to the thought that there are some guys here who I think I am going to start drafting more of because I wouldn't mind ending up with one of these top 5 guys. I wouldn't mind ending up with some guys who I think have a very high floor.
Robert Tonyan?
Look, if you like Robert Tonyan,
no,
take him.
I know, and I mean his ADP is like rock bottom.
For me though, like especially in season long, why not take the elite pass catcher who happens to play tight end when everyone's taking their elite pass catchers in the second and third round.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think I'm going to end up with more Waller. I think I'm going to start sneaking some Hockenson.
I don't have anyone, or I have very few shares of Waller. Doing this exercise, it made me realize I when we do these best ball drafts, I gotta grab me some more Darren Waller.
I
We
think
gotta get our shit going mentally.
I think we've too often it's either Kelce early or no one, and I think to me like if I look at the first 5 rounds and I want to talk about getting 5 elite like most likely pass catchers or running backs, I've become a lot more okay with some of these guys being one of those 5 guys.
Well, and just looking at my rankings and my best ball draft strategy, I could come away with Darren Waller and Robert Tonyan and not draft another tight end and barely use much capital.
Well, I mean, yeah,
because Robert Tonyan's ADP is like no one believes in Robert Tonyan. It's just me and Aaron Rodgers.
And when you look at the board of tight ends, I think taking one of those top guys, pairing him with one of those guys in that tier, like to me, however you like the tight end position this year, you probably have a log jam of guys from like 8 to 17 that are all relatively similar. You can make cases why they're going to have good years or bad years. And I think you pair one of those guys with an elite guy in best ball, that's a great strategy. Now, in season long, the reason I like getting the elite guy is you don't have to worry about scrapping and playing the waiver wire game. That's the other side of the argument, though, right? Save that draft equity for a position that's harder to play the waiver wire game with.
Kramer, overall PPR consensus ADP for Robert Tonyan, a.k.a. Bobby T.
I mean, he's probably outside the 10th round, right?
171. Jesus.
I question that consensus, but I do think he's going, or in the wild, he's probably going around Ferkser and that. Earlier than
ninth
that.
Tight end is the ESPN 11th for MFL Fantrax 13.
That makes more sense, and that's probably in the Logan Thomas for most people, like Logan Thomas, Gesicki, Noah Fant or Smith, maybe Tonyan, all in that tier. In that tier for me too. And
we haven't really hit on Travis Kelce, but again, just legit beast. He doesn't miss games due to injury. I mean, I think the last game he missed,
he fucked us out of a bunch of money.
He didn't even really miss it technically because he got knocked out of the game, and that was the end of their season. It was that Titans-Chiefs playoff game where he had an awesome first half and then got lit up, got a concussion. But coming off another 11 touchdown, 100. And 5 catches, 14-16, just set a career record in yards.
This is why he's great. He had 2 games all year with less than 7 targets.
His floor is insanely high, and his ceiling is insanely high. Like, there's a world where he gets 1,500 yards in a 17-game season.
And again, this is back where not to get into the value over replacement. It's an interesting conversation because tight ends will be deeper. And you will have the population of the analytics people that say, wait, play the streamer, just play matchups. But when you can pick up a guy who plays a position where most everyone else is getting 30% less of the target share, there is a certain cheat code aspect to it. And I think especially in this year where there's a lot of question about a lot of the guys being drafted in the top round especially. But you could argue throughout the first 2 rounds to end up being able to take Darren Waller with that, like at that swing, maybe with your first pick in the 3rd there at 3-2, 3-3, that's not the worst because you've gotten a stud running back, you've gotten a stud wide receiver, and now you've locked up a stud tight end. So, again, I'm not typically the guy. And here's my thing, though. If I do that, I'm not drafting the quarterback. I'm not spending the equity on that team in the quarterback room. So.
And the Kelce? Sorry, or are we talking about
just
Waller?
In general, even Kelce for like a season long, it would be pretty unlikely to take Kelce and then also spend a lot of draft capital on Patrick Mahomes. Now, best ball, again, I think you're almost kind of pigeonholed into it. But, maybe we need to have that motto. You don't have to stack the first guy you draft. You don't. You don't.
We'll see.
It's a lot to invest. 2nd and 3rd round picks, 2nd and 1st round picks, 1st and 3rd round pick. That's a lot to invest in a stack.
Are you talking hero RB strategy, zero RB,
I'm just saying
hero
that's,
anchor strategy?
if you stack Tyreek Hill or Kelce with Patrick Mahomes, that's a lot.
It's not a bad.
It's
not a bad team. Though.
It's you got to have some of that, but it's also like that's a lot to invest. That team, you've spent a lot on that stack.
You'll probably get a lot back though, right?
Maybe.
Hashtag investing.
Maybe.
All right, that does it for our first of our fantasy top 10 fantasy football tight end series. Make sure you download the SGPN app. Give it a rating and review every Monday. Drafting winners for Merch Monday. Gonna pick some random reviews, hook them up with merch, tweet out the winners every Monday at Gambling Podcast. Post the winner in our Slack channel, which you should be in if you want to hang out. Chat with us and a bunch of other
Legends only.
Winners only, please.
Ryan, how many minutes did we do on tight ends?
That's what I was saying. Shit. We were going to do a tight 30. It looks like we've done about an hour.
Well, again,
Hour on tight ends?
I had a ton of energy coming from the tight end summit, Ryan. Feeling on top of the world. Football is almost here.
Yeah.
Thank you for participating in the Sports Gambling Podcast.
For the Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, stacking the money green, and he is Ryan.
Good luck to your tight end, Sean.
Kramer. Let it ride.